Roskilde lost its importance during the Middle Ages in favor of the new harbour port of Copenhagen. The blockades were not looked after, and in time were covered by sand and mud. It was forgotten that this was a blockade from the Viking Age. But every now and again, the National Museum donned their frogman suits to search for what local rumour called a medieval ship. The fjord soon showed that it held a treasure that went beyond our wildest dreams. 5 ships from the Viking Age, the most important ever maritime find in Denmark. It was decided to salvage the 5 ships from the bottom of the fjord, something that had to be done with the greatest of care. In 1962, a fence of iron sheeting was erected around the find. The water was pumped out, and a man-made island took shape in the middle of the field, where the archaeologists could excavate and salvage the ships. After 900 years underwater, the wood of the ships was much decomposed. All digging was done by hand, and the individual parts of the ships were rinsed down with water pistols. The entire excavation was constantly sprinkled with water to protect the old wood from drying out. During the salvage operation, the ship's parts were documented exactly as they were found at the bottom of the fjord. Before it was removed, every individual piece of wood was given a number so that its rightful place in the ship could be found again. Piece by piece, it was brought out of the water and drawn to full scale. And now began the enormous work of conserving the ships so that they could survive out of the water. A synthetic wax called polyethanol glycol was used in order to do this. One of the properties of glycol is that it disperses in warm water, but crystallizes and sets again when taken out of the water. The many thousands of ship parts were conserved in large tanks of water. Glycol was added little by little and was slowly absorbed by the decomposed wood, replacing the water that normally holds the cell structure of wood in place. For some of the wood, it took several years before the water was replaced by glycol. Eventually, it was possible to transfer the conserved ship parts to the newly built Viking Ship Museum in Roskilde, built specifically for these 5 ships. The work of restoring these ships to life could now begin. It was the world's largest jigsaw puzzle, and it needed much patience and care. It took more than 25 years to reassemble the ships. The 5 ships give a very representative picture of the fully developed sailing ships of the late Viking Age. Ships which were built for particular purposes and waters, and to display the power, might, and wealth of the Vikings. 2 of the ships were built for trade. They were wide and deep, and originally had half decks fore and aft, and an open storage room midships. They were primarily sailing ships. The oars were only used to assist in maneuvering. One of the trading ships was built in Denmark. It is a good example of the many small ships, crewed by 5 or 6 men, that plied trade in things like beer, salt, glass, and clothing between towns and marketplaces in Denmark. The other trading ship was built in Norway. With its crew of 5 to 8 men, this ship could sail everywhere in the North Sea, the Baltic, and the North Atlantic Ocean. It was ships like this that supplied the inhabitants of the islands in the North Atlantic with articles such as building timber, grinding mills, iron, and clothes in European fashion. These ships would also have been used to transport bishops from Greenland to church synods in Norway. 2 of the ships were built for military purposes. They are long and narrow, built for speed